feature in a really neat place on the moon, and it is on the near side, far side boundary.
54 years. That is how long it has been since a human being looked out of a window and saw the moon not as a distant white disk in the night sky, but as a world beneath them. On April 6th, 2026, that changed. 4 astronauts, traveling at thousands of miles per hour, swung around the far side of the moon, a place no human eye had ever directly observed, and they brought cameras. What they captured in those 7 hours is what we are going to break down today, image by image, detail by detail. On April 1st, 2026, at 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time, NASA's Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket ever flown with a human crew, lifted off from Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Aboard the Orion spacecraft named Integrity by the crew were 4 astronauts. Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, the first black astronaut to reach deep space, mission specialist Christina Koch, the first woman to fly beyond low Earth orbit, and mission specialist Jeremy Hansen, the first Canadian to travel to deep space. Their mission, a 10-day test flight around the moon and back. Not a landing, not yet. Artemis II was the essential dress rehearsal, stress testing every life support system, every navigation protocol, every emergency procedure aboard Orion before NASA commits to putting boots on the lunar surface. On April 5th, at 12:37 a.m. Eastern, Orion entered the lunar sphere of influence, the point where the moon's gravity pulls harder on the spacecraft than Earth's does. Mission specialist Christina Koch marked the moment live.
Integrity and Carol Crater, loud and clear. Thank you.
We are now falling to the moon rather than rising away from Earth. It is an amazing milestone. And then came April 6th, Flight Day 6, 7 hours of lunar observation beginning at 2:45 p.m. Eastern, approximately 10,000 photographs, and some of the most extraordinary images ever captured by human hands. Let's go through them. The first image, and I want you to really look at this one. This was not taken through a window. It was captured by a camera mounted on one of Orion's solar array wings, positioned outside the spacecraft itself. In the foreground, the Orion capsule, lit by the sun. In the middle, the moon gray, ancient and enormous. And in the far background, tiny against the blackness of space Earth. 3 worlds in a single frame. The spacecraft, the destination, home. What makes this scientifically important is the scale. At this point, the crew was hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth. Our entire planet, every ocean, every continent, every living person compressed into a single bright dot in the corner of a photograph. This is not a filter. This is not a render. This is a real photograph, taken by a machine built by humans, floating in deep space, pointed back toward where we came from. This next photograph was taken the night before the flyby, right after the crew entered the lunar sphere of influence. Before going to sleep, someone held a camera to the window and pressed the shutter. The moon fills the frame almost entirely. Notice the terminator line, the sharp diagonal boundary between the sunlit lunar surface and pure darkness. This is not a shadow from a cloud. This is the edge of lunar day and night, a boundary that shifts as slowly as the moon rotates, once every 27 Earth days. Along that line, sunlight hits the surface at an extremely low angle, and that grazing light turns every crater rim, every ridge, every boulder into a dramatic study of light and shadow. The moon is already showing us its geology, and the crew hasn't even reached it yet. Now this image. This one made scientists stop. On the right side, you can see the familiar dark patches, the Maria ancient lava plains that flooded enormous impact basins billions of years ago. This is the near side. The face of the moon every human being on Earth has looked at their entire lives. But on the lower left, that circular structure with concentric rings, that is, the Oriental Basin, its outermost ring stretches nearly 950 kilometers across. It straddles the boundary between the near side and the far side of the moon. And everything to the left of Oriental, that is the far side, the hemisphere permanently turned away from Earth. The side no human eye had ever directly observed until April 6, 2026. Orion tail formed approximately 3.8 billion years ago during the late heavy bombardment, a period when the inner solar system was being pelted by debris left over from planetary formation. Its concentric ring structure tells us how the crust compressed and rebounded elastically after the impact, like dropping a stone into deep water and watching the ripples freeze in place. This is a handheld photograph taken at 400 millimeters focal length through the window of the Orion spacecraft. The crater is Vavilov, sitting on the rim of the even older, larger Hertzsprung basin beneath it. The drama in this image comes entirely from timing. It was photographed right at the terminator line where sunlight strikes the surface at an almost horizontal angle. At that angle, a crater only a few hundred meters deep casts a shadow that stretches kilometers across the surface. Topography that would look flat in direct overhead lighting becomes immediately readable. See the central peak rising from the crater floor? That forms when impact energy is so enormous that rock briefly behaves like a liquid. The floor compresses, then bounces back upward, forming a mountain at the center. The height of that peak directly reflects the energy of the original impact. This one photograph tells a geological story that took billions of years to write. And now, the image that will define this mission. At 8:35 p.m. Eastern on April 6th, as Orion traveled around the far side, the moon passed directly between the crew and the sun. From deep space, let me explain precisely why this is different from anything ever seen on Earth. From the ground, a total solar eclipse lasts a maximum of 7 minutes and 32 seconds. The moon's shadow races across Earth's surface at roughly 1,700 kilometers per hour. You are standing still. The shadow moves. It passes and it is over. From Orion traveling with the moon, the geometry is completely different. Totality lasted from 8:35 p.m. to 9:32 p.m. Eastern. That is 57 minutes of a fully eclipsed sun. Now look at the left edge of the moon in this photograph. There is a faint, soft crescent glow on what should be complete darkness. That is Earthshine's sunlight, reflecting off Earth's oceans and cloud cover, bouncing back toward the moon, and softly illuminating the part that faces us. Earth is positioned just outside this frame, to the upper left. Now look at the background. Stars, hundreds of them. Normally, you cannot photograph stars alongside the moon. The moon is simply too bright. But with the sun blocked, the camera's exposure time could be extended far enough to capture starlight. And among those stars, 4 planets. Mercury, usually hidden near the sun, exposed here because the sun is blocked. Venus, a bright dot clearly visible to the left of the moon. Mars. Saturn, all simultaneously visible in a single frame from deep space. And here, as totality ends, watch the moon's edge as sunlight begins to return. It is not smooth, it is jagged, irregular, uneven. You are watching mountains, crater rims, and valley walls silhouette against the re-emerging solar disk lunar peaks, reaching up to 8 kilometers high, casting their profiles in returning light. 6:41 p.m. Eastern, April 6th, 2026. This image carries a precise timestamp because the crew knew exactly how many minutes they had left. This is Earthset, Earth descending behind the lunar limb, viewed from Orion. That blue crescent is our planet. The white swirling cloud systems in the lower right, that is Australia and the Oceania region in full daylight. The dark upper half is experiencing night. In the foreground, Ohm crater, terraced inner walls, a flat floor, broken by a central peak. The same impact rebound process we just discussed with Vavilov. But here it is, framed against the setting Earth, making the geology feel suddenly personal. This image was captured 3 minutes before Orion passed completely behind the moon, entering a 40-minute communication blackout from 6:44 p.m. to 7:25 p.m. Eastern. For 40 minutes, no contact with mission control, no contact with Earth, just 4 human beings and the far side of the moon. And at 7:25 p.m. Eastern, this greeted them as they emerged. Earthrise, Earth, a delicate crescent, soft blue, with cloud systems standing out against pure black, rising above the rugged silhouetted lunar horizon. The lower half of Earth is in complete darkness. In 1968, Apollo 8 gave humanity its first Earthrise photograph. It became one of the most iconic images in history. In 2026, Artemis II gave us a new one. Same scale, same humility. New generation. At 1:57 p.m. Eastern on April 6th, before the flyby had even reached its closest point, the Artemis II crew crossed a threshold that had stood for 56 years, 248,655 miles from Earth. The record set by Jim Lovell, Fred Hayes, and Jack Swigert aboard Apollo 13 on April 15, 1970, during their emergency return to Earth after the oxygen tank explosion was surpassed. The crew kept going. By 7 p.m., Orion reached its maximum distance, 252,756 miles from Earth, more than 4,100 miles beyond the Apollo 13 record, the farthest any human beings have ever traveled from this planet, a record held for 56 years, broken on April 6, 2026. In 7 hours on April 6, 2026, 4 human beings took approximately 10,000 photographs. They documented ancient lava flows, surface fractures, and impact craters on the far side of the moon that no human eye had ever directly seen. They reported 6 meteoroid impact flashes on the darkened lunar surface, actual space rocks striking the moon in real time, their light captured through the windows of Orion. During the eclipse, they described the solar corona, calling the plasma structures they saw baby hairs streaming away from the sun's edge. And just after breaking the distance record, Commander Reed Wiseman proposed names for 2 unnamed craters.
There's a feature in a really neat place on the moon, and it is on the near side, far side boundary. In fact, it's just on the near side of that boundary, and so at certain times of the moon's transit around Earth, we will be able to see this from Earth. And so we lost a loved one. Her name was Carol, the spouse of Reed, the mother of Katie and Ellie.
Integrity after their spacecraft. And Carol, after his late wife, Carol Taylor Wiseman, who passed away on May 17, 2020. He wept when the crew agreed. These images are just the beginning. Thousands more photographs and hours of video are still being transmitted back on NASA's Deep Space Network, and the releases will continue in the days and weeks ahead. Artemis II was a test flight. Every image, every data point, every observation feeds directly into Artemis III, the first mission to land humans on the moon since December 1972. The target: the lunar South Pole, where permanently shadowed craters hold ancient water ice. Ice that becomes oxygen. Ice that becomes rocket fuel. Ice that makes long-term human presence on the moon not just possible, but sustainable. The moon has always been there. These 4 people reminded us that it is not just a light in the sky. It is a destination. And we are going back.